have a post up. To check the link real quick, let me know if you can see what's going on. Anybody, 1 or 2 people, to make sure that we can see what's going on.
We want a silhouette on the camera before. Wait, you want to see your face?
Nah, that's cool. Yeah. So you can see it, you said?
Well, I'm looking at my camera. Yeah.
How I look on there? I look dark on there?
You look dark on there.
You can stand up, right? Totally dark?
I mean, I can see you. It's my number.
Any other lights will cast a shadow, probably. Yeah. Well, no, I should be okay.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, put these lights back on so you can see. So it's still casting a shadow on here, right? Anybody that's looking online, YouTube, go to my YouTube channel, Kingdom Harmony Ministries. Let me find this out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, they said, say you said, okay, he got, you know.
It's the light test, or
I can see you better. That's better.
yeah?
Yes. All right. Okay. So we're about to get started, everybody. All right. So you can just focus your attention over here. Still got some more people today on the way. So we're gonna wait to see what happens there. All right. So to the viewing audience, I just want to let you guys know that we're still waiting on the bishop to come. So hopefully he shows up. There's a story behind that, but I'll probably tell y'all another time. The audience already knows about it, but I'll probably tell you another time. But without further ado, since we're about a little 10 minutes in, I'm gonna get started with the event, all right? So first person I got up is my brother, Worsham Ellington, AKA Rah the Great. I met this brother, I think we met on Facebook. I'm not sure we connected on Facebook. We connected, it's been a while now, almost over a year. And he was co-hosting 43.2 The Drop, which was an awesome radio show. And if you guys don't know about it, you can Google it, sign up for it, get on the mailing list, check it out, because it's the best way to fine-tune the frequency that we need to listen to as melanated people, all right? So I met this brother on the show, stayed in touch with him, looked up his Facebook page. He had an awesome program that he was doing for the youth. And I cannot have an event out here in LA without the brother Rah coming out and talking about the great program that he has for the youth out there, so you can see what we're doing in the community. So without further ado, I announce to y'all, Worsham Ellington, AKA Rah the Great. Give him an applause, y'all. All right, peace, shalom. How's everybody doing today? All right, good. Well, this is the part of the program where I'm going to come and talk to you about some things that we have going on for our youth. You guys are loosened up. I know you got your game faces on. You're ready for a big time discussion today. So change a couple things a little different today, but it's all good. We got my man Brandon in the building. We still got my man Divine here, so we're going to have a great day. But I do want to let you guys know about some things and some opportunities that we have right in our own communities. And some things that we're doing for the youth to build the youth for a better tomorrow. Are you guys down with that? Yes. Does anybody out there have children? Yes. Okay. But what if I told you there's something out there for your children or for you that could heighten cognition, that can decrease out your chances of getting Alzheimer's, that can work on both sides of your brain, that can work on your creativity skills, improve them, and improve your memory? Would that be something that you'd be interested in getting your child involved in? Yes. And I'm not talking about no magic pill or anything like that. What we are doing is teaching our children about the game of chess. Chess. All right, very good. Well, if you play the game of chess, did you know that there are many benefits to the game of chess? Critical thinking, analytical skills, mental discipline, problem solving, concentration, imagination, pattern recognition, and your memory. It works on both the left and right side of the brain. We pull these nutrients out of the game of chess. We walk them through the basics and fundamentals. We teach them everything from files and ranks, the dynamics of the chessboard. We take you through piece movement, piece identification. We take you to check and checkmate, rook roller, prime liver attack, castling, all these different things. Skills, academic skills, life skills. You know, if you're playing a game of chess, you're gonna learn patience. You have to be patient. You have to visualize. You have to look ahead. You have to plan. You have to sit down and think. Discipline, right? Don't touch a piece until you're ready to move it. Know what's gonna happen, the consequence. In the game of chess, we get a chance to get immediate gratification or consequences. I can learn a lifetime worth of experiences in one game. So what we do is we teach chess in a fun way. Because most people might look at it and say, you know, it's a game for brainiacs. You know, I tried to play it. Is there anybody out there who tried to play chess, but you maybe felt it was too difficult, you know, too hard? You're just like, man, I ain't got time for that. Well, we take this complex idea and break it down to the simplest components. Like I said, I'm gonna need y'all to loosen up, because I'm gonna give you some demonstrations on what we bring to the youth, so you guys will get a taste of it. And if there's people out there that want to get involved, then I'm gonna tell you exactly how to do that, especially for bringing your children in, because I know for sure that it has many benefits. It has been proven to expand students in the areas of English, math, and science. This is a proven fact. So that's something we definitely want to do. We teach using stories, poems, and song. So have you read about the rook? He makes all the pieces look as he moves across the board. He slips, he slides, he dips, he glides, and the king can't move past his sword. Now, one day he was sliding down the way. He caught the bishop trying to steal his moves. He tapped him on his head, and this is what he said: "You only move in a diagonal groove." The bishop cried. He tried to run and hide because that tap hurt his pride. But he said to the rook, "I didn't mean to be a crook. I like you up.
up, down, side to side. That's how he moves. He moves up, down, side to side. I said up, down, side to side. Let me hear you. He moves up, down, side to side. I said up, down, side to side. Now, most of you were sitting out there very serious, like, what is this dude talking about? But after a minute, you start singing that song, up, down, side, so you can't help but to smile. It's going to bring the joy out. And just by hearing the song, you can probably tell me the name of this piece, can you? The rook. And you can probably tell me how the rook moves. How does the rook move? Up, down, side to side. I said, up, down, side to side. It's called the disguised learning technique. And these are the things that we use to enlighten our children with. Now, that's not all we do. There was a story my brother shared with me. And shout out to my brother, Kasim Ali, and his wife, Sister Niche. They were the ones who really put this program together. My little bro, myself, was still in college. When I came out, I joined them. So they put together a dynamic program for your children. And a story that he shared with me recently, I felt like I was compelled to share. He was out and about. This was a few years back. He was out and about, and he ran into a former student. This former student walked up to him, and he was like, "Hey, man, I remember you. Yeah, you're Mr. Ellington. You taught me chess." And my brother was like, "Oh, wow." He didn't recognize him. The young man, we taught him in elementary. Now he's graduating high school. He looks completely different, but he recognized my brother. And he had a big smile on his face. He was very excited to say hello to my brother. And my brother was like, "Oh, man, that's good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed the program. What did you take from it?" And the young man looked at him and he was like, "Up, down, side to side." I said, "Up, down, side to side." So that, no doubt, the look on his face, the smile on his face, it is definitely a positive thing. Anytime that we can teach the kids something and they can connect whatever they learn or their experience with joy, that's a great thing. So that wasn't disappointing for my brother, but he did walk away a little melancholy. He was a little down, simply because he wanted to leave something a little more impactful with the children. Now, we have these children from typically kindergarten, sometimes pre-K, all the way up through elementary, and they move on and they're out of our hands. So we were thinking, what can we do to leave more of a long-lasting impact? Something that when we talk about it with them, they can say, "Oh, I learned this," or "I learned that" from the program, versus just up, down, side to side, which is cool, like I said, but we definitely wanted to inspire them in another way. So that led us to, and it led him to our version of chess life strategies, where we take all the components of chess and different things that you learn, and we teach the kids how to apply it in everyday life. And that's the fundamental difference between us and other chess programs. Sure, there are many other chess programs out there that will teach you how the pieces move. They will teach you check and checkmate. They will teach you en passant, rook roller, these different things. But what we strive to do is take time with our children and make sure to install some things that will give them a basic foundation for them to live upon, something that they can really remember and pull from and stream a better life from. So we came up with different ideas. Like I said, chess life strategies. Something hit me with, I wanted to do the same thing. I was so inspired by, brothers like Divine and different brothers on YouTube that were speaking and powerfully speaking and giving back to the community and doing so many different things. And I was like, man, I just want to do that. I want to be a part of something like that. And then I had that aha moment when it was just like, you're doing it. You're working with the youth. Take the things that you're learning. Take the things that you have experienced, wrap it up, and give it to them. Give it away. So this is what we started doing. This led to my Unleash Your Greatness movement. So these are the things that we tie in. And with every day when we have the kids in our possession, because we understand that the ages of 0 to 6 are very intricate times for a child to lay the groundwork for the rest of their life. The Jesuits would say, give me your child from 0 to 6 and you can have them back. They'll belong to the church forever. Because the programming of your mind and the subconscious throughout that age, everything in your life stems back to that. If you sit down with any psychologist, they're going to go back to your childhood eventually. What happened from that age? And that's where everything stems from. That's a precious age for us to reach our children. So what we do every day before we start class, loosen up right here. I'm going to need your participation. What we do is we give them these positive affirmations to anything that they experience within class. They can come back to this and this will be their foundation and stronghold. And what we call it is, it helps. It's called the virtues of champions, the facts of life. When I say hard work, can you say pays off? Hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. When I say learning, can you say earning? Learning. Earning. Learning. Earning. When I say teamwork, can you say dream work? Teamwork. Dream work. Teamwork. Dream work. When I say everything, can you say speaks? Everything. Speaks. Everything. Speaks. When I say I'm, can you say possible? I'm possible. I'm possible. Now you say I'm, and I'll say possible. I'm possible. I'm possible. When I say prepare, can you say perform? Prepare. Perform. Prepare. Perform. When I say set back, can you say come back? Set back. Come back. Set back. Come back. These are the facts of life. These are the virtues of champions. A kid loses a game over and over and over again. They get frustrated. They want to cry. What do we tell them? Every setback is a setup for a comeback. We came here today. I know you came with your game face on. You're ready to munch some people up. But we're not gonna have that situation today. We gotta alter it up. It's a setback, but it's ultimately gonna be a comeback for us. We're gonna turn it into one. We're gonna make something happen from it. You know what I mean? So a situation where a young man he's standing up in front of everybody, he has a trophy. What do we tell him? Hard work pays off. So these are things that everything that they experience, they're able to pull back right here from this. We just put these things in place because we want the kids to grow up with something more than just up, down, side to side. And we definitely want you to learn how to play chess, but we want you to have a little bit more to pull from with that. So that's what our program is all about. Our program is called Chess Tutors. You can find us online, chesstutors.org. You can go to my website, rahrahthegreat.com. We have all kind of things going on for the community. We will be at the Taste of Soul coming up. For those of you who are chess players, we make sure that every year we have a big tournament out there. Last time we were out there, a young man won about $700. We give away college scholarship money. We have an event every year at USC. It's called the Grand Match Gala, the GMG. We roll out the red carpet. We literally roll out a red carpet for the young adults that are coming here to experience this. We call it the Battle of the Minds competition. We bring the best chess players from all of our different areas that we teach in, and they have a chance to compete against each other, school against school, person against person, for a chance to win a trophy that stands about this tall, for a chance to win thousands of money. Last year, we gave around roughly about $5,000 at our event. This year, 2016, we were at USC. So each year, you guys can come out and support that. You have children who want to get involved, you can contact me. I can get you guys involved in this. It's a very powerful movement that we're trying to do. There's a lot of things that you can learn from the game of chess, and there's a lot of positive things that we want to instill into your children. So I definitely appreciate your time. There's a couple other things that I want to mention because our brother King Drop has a website that I wanted to talk to you guys about. We're going to move on past chess for a quick minute, and we're going to move into 432 to drop, which is something that I would love for you guys to experience. It is the mathematical sound of nature, of the universe, that we are tuning all of our music to 432 hertz. The music that they're pumping out in the radio is 440 hertz. It's friction, it's chaos. And if you look at the diagram, you can put up on YouTube where the sound, the vibration of 440 hertz, it scatters. But the vibration of 432, it actually brings harmony. So we are tuning all of our music on this website. You can go there anytime, 432thedrop.com. You can listen to music in a frequency that hits your crown chakra, and it's meant to put you in the right vibration, not the chaotic vibration that they are pumping out in the radio. So please tune into that. You can go to our YouTube channel, 432 The Drop, and my man has plenty of information up on there for all my brews. You will definitely get on there and you will absolutely love it. We got my man Silas in the building. He is with us as we do our radio shows. We always talk about different things that are going on in the neighborhood or in the communities with the government, whether it's, we talked about the vaccine situation. We talked about different things that they're doing with chemtrails. We've talked about how to prepare for any type of natural disaster, or if they were to pull some stunts on us where we had to band together and do our own thing. Our man DivineProspect has come on. He's dropped a lot of knowledge. So We have a lot of information out there. Please tune in. Again, my name is Ra the Great. You can check out our website, rathegreat.com, chesstutors.org, and go ahead and check out 432 The Drop for me. I appreciate you guys. Much love. Thank you for your time. I'm going to bring up my man. Keep it moving.
That's fine. Yes. Okay.
All right, so everybody give a round of applause for my brother Ra the Great. That was an excellent demonstration. All right, so next up now, we have my brother, Brandon T. Jackson. Y'all know him as the actor, comedian. I mean, he's done blockbuster hits. He tears down the comedy shows when he's there. I actually went to the one that he was in LA. Brother did a phenomenal job, and he finds a subliminal way of sow seeds of truth while he disseminates his comedy schemes. And I'm telling you, if you've never seen it before, you don't know what you're missing. So I got the brother out here now, and he wants to talk to you about culture. And the brother has a phenomenal clothing line. And a lot of people were saying, what did I get what I got on? The brother gonna talk about that. So kudos to him for this. He gave me this shirt to show solidarity with his movement and what he wants to do to get the people behind preserving our culture. And the brother's gonna talk to you a little bit about that. So without further ado, I'm my brother Brandon T. Jackson in the building. Give him a round of applause. We're gonna do his thing.
Hello, shalom, everybody. Shalom. Listen, I'm here just to talk, just to conversate, kick it, because first of all, I've been in the truth for about 6 months. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I always been in the Word of God. I've always been in the Word. I grew up in the Christian church, like most of us, and I've always had a problem with what I should say is like us being ashamed of who we are as people. Like one time I was in, and this is not anything against any pastors, and when I want to say this before I get started, we come in peace. When we say shalom, we say peace unto you. And I know a lot of us came here to have a discussion. This whole thing was mostly to have a discussion about a liberation and preservation of our culture and of our people. And the moment you try to talk about that, people can call you racist. They can call you like, okay, these guys, just because you want to help your own, like a family member. You know what I mean? If you have a family meeting, and someone's not invited to your family meeting, you can't say, okay, if you're not in the family, that we don't love you. We love people who are in the law, statutes, commandments, and we love everybody. But we most likely, we're intertwined with people who are in the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, which goes with the natural order of why we're here on earth. And my problem is I have a core. What I'm looking for, because I want to just always express peace, because it's not our job to, and I'm saying this with all humility. I don't want to ever seem like I'm bashing any groups, because when I was blinded to the truth and when I was trying to figure out, where it was going at, you never want to be this combative spirit that we have. I don't think that's the Ruach, the set apart spirit that's leading us to, move the people. And I just feel like that a lot of that came, the reason why I can say my testimony, I strayed away from any truth in my life for years because of the bashing and the hard bondage that was, not accepting who we are as a culture. I had one. I was in a service where somebody preached against braids for for 3 hours. Like, we got it in church on Sunday, and we left on Wednesday talking about braids. So, but this is a true thing because we've been taught not to love ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with loving, in every other culture and every other, things, but we've been taught in, things to not love ourselves. So I'm presenting to you guys, and all praise to the Most High who gave me the idea, kingdom clothing. Now, as you can see, I got my ZCs on print. Now, these ones don't have fringes on. Now, a lot of them have fringes. Shout out to Brother Malak, who Shalom, who actually he's the first one to tell me, hey man, you got to put the fringes on the joints. And so the next order, we're gonna figure out how to put the fringes on, because to be honest, I got more people asking for the fringes, than without. So, but here's an example of what actually one of my good friends, believe it or not, Lil Wayne. Now, as you can see, now, I'm not down on anybody. I'm just trying to show you. If you look up black man, if you Google black man, there's certain images that come up. And I always had a problem because it's like, I believe that the Most High gave us a kingdom culture. I believe he gave us a way to dress. He gave us a way to be. He gave us a swag to be. And people say, it's racist if you want to, but he said we would have salted the earth. So imagine if we all had, our own thing, which I think a lot of us do. He gives us the ideas. And now this could be frowned upon, like in our culture. Like for me, I like Wayne. I like it, be honest, he's my friend, so I'm not bashing him. My man right here, pants ain't sagging, okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but got the hat cocked to the side, got the joint. I love the dress, doing a thing. Now, I'm not really tripping off the image of one of my friends who, and I'm gonna say this because I know Wayne personally, and I'm never gonna bash him because he's doing it. He's doing what he's doing. What I'm saying is that we're looking at people who imagine the influence of, people who have a mic, if they were in the truth of what they can become and how they can influence the whole world of how to be and how to dress. Now you can say that, you got Gucci, man. Let's go. Okay. Now I ain't bashing. I ain't saying, I don't want them calling me up and saying, B, why would you say this about me? But, we got the ice cream joint on. It's Gucci. I mean, who owns Gucci? Anybody? Who owns Gucci? Is it Italian? I'm asking. An Italian guy. Now, his name is Gucci, man. Now, we gonna pray. We support our brother in life. We not gonna bash him. But I'm saying is, do we own Gucci at all? Who owns Gucci? An Italian man. And not like this, but imagine if he had his own clothing line and he was putting it on, maybe Kingdom Clothing. Let's just say, the Most High gave him a clothing line called Kingdom Clothing. And he was on the red carpet. Actually, put the BT Awards. Brandon Jackson, I'm gonna show you. I'm just gonna be straight up. Now he's putting on, and it's not. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with wearing Gucci. I'm saying that we don't own any of the stuff that we're promoting. Now you've got a whole rap name as an Italian guy that's on your thing. Now this isn't racist. Now I got some Gucci at home too. I'm saying it's not bad to have your own thing also, and it's not bad to, patronize one of it. Now if it looks look, okay, boom. Now I know I got the same thing on. I do the same thing. That was not planned. The Most High, because I was supposed to wear the one with the fringes, but he set me up like this. He knew his thought. And honestly, and this is just speaking from my heart. I didn't prepare anything, but I know the Most High gave us culture. Now, of course, the new ones, of course, got fringes on them, and we can do it. Now, look. Now, I'm saying, and I'm not down on my brother. I'm saying that it's a certain look that got the Most High gave us, the kingship that He gave us on earth that I feel. And I'm not calling myself a king. I'm saying that when you start to dress like we know who we are, you start to have a certain, level of respect for yourself. And now, check this out. E Online actually gave me a great review And they didn't even know about it. They said they gave me a great review on my clothes. Now, if you look at me, oh, I should show you. Dang, I wish I could pull up a picture of me back in the day before I came into truth. Go. Man. I'm trying to see. Go to Brandon T. Jackson. I'm trying to see when I was real stressed out. Let's go to dang. Just go to images real quick. I can show you. Now, the only reason I'm saying this, and I'm just saying this because, and honestly, I'm coming all humility. I can care less about what it, my image as a, okay, let's go down. Okay, these are different phases of BTJ. And I know I'm speaking in third person, but go down. This is, let me go down. I'm going to go when I was really going through it. I'm going to show you. Because, first of all, I was pulling on a rock star energy. A lot of comedians got a rock star energy. The Most High told me to put down the rock star and pick up a more of a kingship energy. Now go down. See, this is I was getting saved here. Go down. Let's go down. Okay, where's what I was going through? Let me see.
What about that one right there?
Where? This one right here?
Shut up, down.
Where?
Right down.
Here?
Right there. Look.
No.
Right there.
Okay, that's a rock star image, but now I got one where I was going through it. Go down.
You go.
Yeah, let me see. I know it sounds crazy. Now I gotta find this one picture where I was going through it. This one, well, this one, yeah, but I'm saying this one, the devil had me going. Like I wish I can find that one. Okay. This one I was in my in-between phase where, kind of, yeah, go here. The rock star, got the mustache, just kind of smoked out, don't know what's going on. Oh, now see, now look, this was me with the Kingdom clothing on, right? In Beverly Hills, the Most High had them catch it, says Randy Jackson, Beverly Hills, and it actually says something. If you click on this picture, let me show you how this is. And it's not about me. I know it sounds, this looks, look, it says, where you go down. I was wearing the whole, boom. I know I got the little, I was about to have my child here. So don't track was, look, spotted out about Beverly Hills, California, heading lunch and was sporting an interesting style of clothing. Every time you wear, now take it off, because I was trying to do the David. I don't know if I've seen that picture with David. We go back. Now look at this. Where I was going through my phase where I was still trying to figure out who I was. And you can see a different light when you start to dress like our culture. Now this is just, to me, I feel like I just deodorant on. I look ashy. You can't see it up front, but I was going through a hard time in my life, and the Most High allowed me to come up with things that helps, just build our culture. Man, you gotta take that down. That look crazy. But what I'm saying is this, because I'm coming off humility. I could care less about the celebrity portion of it. I'm more talking about being an example of the kingdom culture. Kingdom culture is about us, supporting each other as one. If one of our sisters have, and look, I'm not bashing him, but imagine if he had his own clothing line, right? And Gucci Man, instead of, his whole name is based off of another person's clothes. And I'm not hating on Gucci. Gucci, much love. I'm praying for you, brother. And I'm not saying, I'm not hating on you. This ain't hate ceremony. This is something to say that we have to support our own people. And we have to support each other as the kingship that the Most High gave us. Now, my whole thing is that it's in the Levitical law, it just teaches us how to dress. And I think that everything he gave us, how to dress, how to eat, how to be, you can't say is something that is a racial thing. And it's been proven that it works because some of our, other cats, we should say, are what's the proper term? I don't want to say eat them. Other nations has proven that the covenant works. I should say that. Because they use it, they have the way they dress, whether they have their own thing, and it's something dressed with dignity. So I just come here, and as someone who's supportive of my brother, and just to plead with you to just have kingdom culture about yourself. Don't be thinking that we're in a cult. Don't think that we're just trying to present something. So I present to y'all and our community here. It's called Kingdom Clothing, and it's something that I think that is very, very, very new. And I want to say that I thank you guys for supporting it so much. And I know some of the orders are late because of you guys' support. I had to, it takes 2 weeks to get them made and different things like that. So if anybody have any suggestions on that, I will hit Divine up. And I just want to say all praises to the Most High for these ideas. I just want to, just say what's up to y'all, let you know I'm here, I'm your brethren, and let you know that it's okay to be in your culture. And that's what I think that's the big thing today. It's talking about culture and how we dress, how we are. And, let's just, get paid for doing, or not just paid, but just have your own thing, instead of having somebody else's name up, even if it's your own clothing line, it doesn't have to be my clothing line. You can, and if you had a rap name, you can make it off your own thing that you're making off in supporting your own people and dressing like something with dignity. So that's why I'm here to say I love you guys. All praise to the Most High, and I'm just here in support of my brother, and that's all I got to say. So God bless y'all. If you want to check out the clothing line, all you got to do, and it's new, guys. So please keep it very. Just don't bash me online saying the orders came late and everything. I'm actually running all of it myself. I'm doing emails myself while I'm acting, because I really in everything. So just don't try to, because it's a growing company. You got to give it a chance to grow. Sometimes we cut things as it is. It's only been around for 3 months. I've been in Truth for 6 months. So, the Most High is moving fast for all of us. So if you want to get it, you can check out my profile, Instagram, Brandon T. Jackson. The link is on the top. This particular shirt is this hoodie with the fringes, 105. The t-shirts are 55. With the fringes, I might make them 57, or you can 55, or you can go get fringes from, because everybody likes their fringes differently. If you want to get them, you can figure out, but I'm gonna have a stock regular version of fringes if you want to get those too. So it's like 57, but I might, for Hebrews, I might just throw 55 all in with the fringes. And we got different colors: black and gold, red and gold, blue and gold, and it'll keep coming. But just know that in supporting this, that you're supporting your own. And that's all I say. All praise the Most High. Thank you guys for your time, and God bless y'all. Most High bless you. Kingdom culture.
All right. Thank you. Give him another round of applause. Brandon T. Jackson in the building. Excellent. And everything he was saying was spot on. You know what I'm saying? Because culture starts with a frame of mind and knowing who you are. You can't have culture if you don't have identity. He woke up. The first thing he realized is that, man, in order for me to really get this information out there, I had to reflect outwardly the change that's going on inside. So the first thing that came to his mind is that, well, we know that the youth are very visual, so let's start with clothing. You know what I'm saying? So what he did was brought a brand new swag to the game, and now our community was showcasing the people that we're not just about going out there and bringing a message, but we want to bring a counterculture. Because once you redeem somebody out of the clutches of something that you believe is destroying them, you have to give them something else to fall back on. A lot of times we like to pull the rug from under the youth, but not give them anything else to stand on. And with this clothing line, I think this is an excellent way for those who coming in to wear brand new swag, courtesy of Brandon T. Jackson and Kingdom Culture Clothing. So give them a round of applause for that. All right. So family, so you see what time it is, right? Can somebody give me a time check? What time is it? 6:25. Do we see the bishop here yet? No. Can y'all see him? Is he back there? Where's he at? You're not here yet? Oh, man. So, all right. So we about to go get started. So I'm going to pull this PowerPoint up. I'm going to do my 10-minute intro. Maybe he'll walk in and do it 10 minutes. If not, I'm going to write my presentation, and then we're going to get started. How's that? All right. We're going to pull this up. Take Brandon down for a second. It's right here if you don't want to see him. So you got to check it out. So shout out to Brandon for hooking me up with the shirt that I got on today. So looking out to my brother for that. I truly appreciate that. Very, very good brother, down to earth. I mean, I've met a lot of celebrities in my life. Have not found nobody with that much, persona. He really reflects what the youth should be looking up to. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't care what anybody says about the brother. I've spent time with him, and I'm telling you, he's a real good. You know what I'm saying? So, if there's anybody that's supporting Hollywood that's one of our own, it's Brandon T. Jackson. All right. All right, y'all. Let me go ahead and do my quick intro. Got time? 5 minutes, 1 second, and then we're going to get started. 1 second. so 5 minutes. All right, y'all. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna give y'all a brief intro on who I am. Can somebody look in the camera real quick? Can you see me in the camera? Am I there? All right, good. Before I put the presentation up. All right, so what I wanted to explain to you guys on today is we wanted to really get to the root of how can we change the dynamics within our community for the better. All right, I'm DivineProspect. I'm the founder and I'm the lead speaker, teacher, etc. of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. We decided to put on this event on today, so that way we can allow the viewing audience at home and the audience that showed up here to actually see two different diametrically, I'm not going to say opposed, but two different diametric stances in regards to how we can use various systems to liberate our community. All right, so Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, what we're about is that the word kingdom, as we know, is the Most High's kingdom that he has in Shamayim. If you don't know what that is, that means the heavenly realm. And eventually, at some point in time in the future, he's going to manifest it in the earth. But before that happens, there has to be those out there that are going to bring the message out to the masses to prep them for when the time comes for the Most High to arrive. So a harbinger is an individual that goes before a king or an army, and they go before the king of the army to announce their arrival, number one, and number two, to make preparations for them to come. Whether that's lodging preparations, whether that's getting the people prepared, whether that's rolling out the red carpet, whatever the case may be. So as a kingdom harbinger, our objective is to let the masses know that the Most High's kingdom is returning and go to his people and prep them for his arrival. So that's the express purpose of what we do. But ultimately, how do you prep the people? Well, you must restore the culture. And with the culture, you restore autonomy. Autonomy allows us to be self-sufficient and self-governing, so that way we don't have to rely on those externally to support what it is that we're doing. Because every time we lean on those on the outside, we are allowing foreign influences to tell us what to do indigenously, and we lose historical continuity to what our ancestors had left behind. So this is why it's very important that when you come into this truth, the objective is to restore culture so you can implement autonomy. So that's what we do in my organization, is that people who join the organization, they have and they are encouraged to have their own business, have their own skill set, have their own trade. Why? Because when people join this organization, the objective is that now if you need something, you can reach out to this brother or this sister. Everybody within the organization is contributing to the self-sufficiency of the body that we have here in one and in truth. So that's very, very important. So when I teach the ideology of who we are as a people, our identity that we have been removed and disconnected from, the objective of it is that once people wake up, what is the next step? Do you keep feeding them information, or do you give them a game plan to put some things in motion to prepare their people, the remnant and the masses for the arrival of this kingdom that's about to come? And that's what we're about to do on today. So my presentation is that for some of my family that's out there, whether you are atheists, whether you are Christians, whether you are anything other than that, a lot of people want to know in a very, very, I would say, a very, very kind of like condensed overview of Hebrew Israelites, what we stand and what are some of the basic tenets in regards to who we are. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to present it in a very diplomatic and tactful way so that the viewing audience at home can take notes, go back through the research, and you can understand where we stand from and what our disposition is. So with that being said, we was waiting on an intro from the bishop so he can give us a little bit about who he is. The bishop name is Bishop Craig Worsham. You can look him up on YouTube, and you can also look him up on Facebook if you want to get some information on him. I want him to represent himself, so I'm not going to speak on his behalf. He didn't show up, so we're going to give a quick 5-minute break and just let the audience stretch for a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to get into this presentation as we either wait for his arrival, and if not, we're going to get on with the rest of the presentation, have a little panel discussion. I'm going to pick some audience members. We're going to talk, we're going to build, and we're going to come together as a family. And what we're going to produce for you guys at home is solutions. You just saw one in regards to the clothing. And now everybody that's here on today has something that they can contribute to the overall benefit of the community, so that way we can once again rise to our great status as we await our redemption. All right. So with that being said, family, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. The audience, y'all can stretch, go outside, get some air a little bit, and come back. We got about 5-7 minutes, and then we're going to get started. Time? Okay. All right. Time. All right. Oh, anybody needs to use the bathroom? There's one right back around there. Yeah, and there's also one down there in front as well. We're about to get started. They just they're going back. That's it. So,
The abomination of desolation.
They already have World War III is already on He said the only true one is TJ, I guess, and then everybody else. That's what he said. I don't have any. I'm not going
Okay, about to get started, family. All right, refocus. Okay, and you can start 1 second. I think this is. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, so still waiting to get an ETA, not answering his phone, not picking up. So it looks like he may not show up, but it's okay. because I'm going to give you all this presentation anyway, and to the viewing audience, you'll be able to check this out as well. All right. So can somebody here read the title for me? What's up?
What is the history of Hebrew Israelite ideology and its application for liberating Black people in America?
All right. Did everybody get that? Got it? Yeah, Con? All right. So let's move forward. All right. So now, before we even delve into the meat and potatoes, we have to ask a couple of questions. All right. And let me turn this off, turn it back on. That'll be helpful. This is working. Okay, what's going on? Oh, that's good. Appreciate that. I can see it. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so now before we begin, there's some questions that we have to ask. So to my viewing audience out there, a lot of people want to know what we're about as far as the Hebrew Israelite community. And this PowerPoint is going to try to get you started on the right foot to understand. This is a very fundamental, rudimentary approach to some of the ideology behind what it is that we believe and what we stand on. Just like any other kind of cultural system, spiritual system, and dare I say religious system, there's going to be various sects. But within our community, from my deductive analysis, I see that a lot of us agree to the information I'm about to present. So this way, when you approach our community, you won't see or get mystified by things that you may feel is kind of overwhelming. It's very harsh. But this right here is the core at what it is that we stand on. And once you have this information, you can better understand our community, right? But before we can even get into anything, we have to touch on some questions. First question, can somebody read that? What is your identity? To my viewing audience out there, what is your identity? This is very, very important, and we're going to touch into a little bit of that as we move forward in this presentation. What is your identity? Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going. Identity is very, very important, because if you don't have your own identity that identifies you with the historical continuity of your ancestors, you will be adopting a foreign entity as your identity, and you will be trying to assimilate into their culture, and by means of losing yours. All right. Next question is, what is your indigenous culture? That means a culture you would have had your ancestors not been interrupted by imperialism and colonialism. What is the indigenous culture that you would have had? Next question. What is your ancestral historical continuity? What ancestors can you trace your historical continuity to? What ancestors? See, all these questions is very, very important. And a lot of times we have to move religion to a side, and we have to pick up to ask these vital, logical questions to understand who we are. All right. The next one is, what lifestyle did your ancestors practice prior to its interruption by the transatlantic slave trade? And this here is particularly for those of us here in America. All right. Even in the West Indies, let's say even South America and Central America as well. What were your ancestors doing and practicing before they got brought over here? And what the Hebrew Israelite ideology is one of many paradigms that attempts to resolve these questions here. All right. The next one is colored, African-American, Afro-American, Black, etc. a nationality? Is that a nationality? A pastor had reached out to me, and he has sent me a video that I watched. Maybe some of y'all watched it. And in the video, he was outside, and he was doing a sermon outside, right? And he had the audience out there, and he said to the audience, every time I name you a person, tell me what their nationality is. So he says, Chinese. And they said, what? What's their nationality? Or what country did they come from? China. He said, Indians. India. He said, Europeans. Black. Exactly. And the audience just got quiet, because that goes to show that we don't even know where our ancestors came from, what nation we was a part of. We don't even understand any of the historical continuity today, because it's been interrupted, it has been disguised, and it has been removed from us, and we've been given a counterfeit in place of the sustenance. So what our ideology attempts to do is resolve this question to try and link us to a nationality. Because if you don't know what your nationality is, you don't have an identity. Black is a descriptive term. Yes, we can say black power, we can say I'm black, but that does not answer where you came from. That doesn't answer why you're here. That doesn't answer what is your divine purpose. for being where you at today, for waking up, for being conscious. And that is what we're going to address with our ideologies. Move forward. Why did Christianity mostly benefit the slave master more so than it did the slave in America? And when we say Christianity, I'm very key to say Western Christianity. And I'm not making this a blanket statement. I'm saying that in historical, when we go back to look at the information in regards to the slavery that happened in America, both individuals, a slave and a slave master, were both praying to the same deity. Who was he answering? Was he answering the slave, or was he answering the slave master? That's a very, very vital question to ask historically. So again, this is not bashing anybody. What we're doing is asking critical questions so we can go back and research. So this part right here, I have reserved for the end of the presentation. I may or may not show it, but again, this is the question to ask so you can see what we attempt to answer, all right? And the last one is, well, the last two is there an ancient text that prophesied about our historical plight here in America? And the last one is there a solution to our current adverse condition as being Black people in America? And this is what we're attempting to address with our ideology. Now, interesting thing is we have a paradigm that we've discovered in the scriptures, and it's called Deuteronomy chapter 28. And a lot of us Hebrews are familiar with that, but some Christians may not be familiar with that. A lot of times I went to a church out in Atlanta. I'm not going to say the name of the church, and one in New York. And right before they started collecting tithes and offering, or right before they did any kind of collection or anything, they would always read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 to 14, and stop. That's it. And me being a Christian, I thought that was the whole chapter. I never really went back to read the rest of the chapter because I didn't think it mattered. And they would say these things like, you would be the head and not the tail. You would be the lender, not the borrower. You would be at the top and at the bottom. They would give you all these things, and it sounded good. And I realized that they actually skipped the first verse. Has anybody got a Bible in here with y'all? Read Deuteronomy chapter 28, the first verse. They skim right past that and go right into the good stuff. Read that loud.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments.
Wait, slow down. To do what?
To observe and to do all his commandments. Which I command thee this day.
Okay.
That the Most High thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So, commandments. What are those commandments? See, a lot of times when you're doing hermeneutics, we take things out of context. That's called proof texting or cherry picking. And a lot of times you'll see a lot of people do that. They'll go jump to a passage, use 2 or 3 scriptures, and say, look, this is what it means, but they never read it within its context. And that creates a problem. So those of us who study the actual textual criticism of the text understand hermeneutics, and you can't just cherry pick what you want because it makes you feel good. You have to read the entire context. So coming into this information, when I read the entire chapter, I realized something. I said, if we are to receive these blessings, the prerequisite is in verse 1, which is to keep the what? Commandments. I'm going to read some of this here for y'all. Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting at verse 15. It says, but it shall come about, if you do not obey the Most High your Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I charge you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city. Cursed you should be in the country. Cursed shall you be a basket in your kneading bowl. Cursed shall be the offspring of your body and the produce of your ground, the increase of your herd and the young of your flock. Cursed shall you be when you come in. Cursed shall you be when you go out. The Most High will send upon you curses, confusion, rebuke, and all you undertake to do until you are destroyed, until you perish quickly on account of the evil of your deeds, because you have forsaken me. The Most High will smite you with the consumption and with fever and with inflammation, with fiery heat and with the sword and with blight and with mildew, and they will pursue you until you perish. The Most High will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will go in one way against them, but you will flee 7 ways before them, and you will be an example of terror to all the kingdoms of the earth. Your carcass will be food to all the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the earth, and there will be no one to frighten them away. The Most High will smite you with madness and with blindness and with the bewilderment of heart, and you will grope at noon as the blind man gropes in darkness, and you will not prosper in your ways, but you shall only be oppressed and robbed continuously with none to save you. You shall betroth the wife, but another man will violate her. You shall build a house, but you will not live in it. You shall plant a vineyard, but you will not use its fruit. You shall have sons and daughters, but they will not be yours, for they will go into captivity. The alien, foreigner, who is among you shall rise above you higher and higher, but you will go what? He shall lend to you, but you will not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you will be the tail. Because you did not serve the Most High your Elohim with joy and with a glad heart for your abundance of all things. Therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the Most High will send against you in hunger and thirst and nakedness and in lack of all things. And he will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. The Most High will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as the eagle swoops down, a nation whose what? Language you shall not understand. Did the Israelites understand the language of the Egyptians? Whoa, hold on. Were the Israelites in Egypt? And was Joseph not communicating with the Egyptians? And didn't they multiply and Moses was speaking to the Pharaoh or the Nisut? And then they left out. And then we had a situation when the kingdom was established in the region of the Levant, that the Egyptian kings came and interfaced with the Israelites. Okay, so you have Taharka, Nebo, you have all these other Egypt. They had to speak a lingua franca that they both could understand. So that means that we could understand them. The Israelites even fled into Egypt. So they understood the language of the Egyptians. So that means that we're going to find an ambiguous term in this text that explains to us that there's something much deeper there than what we're not being told or what we assume. A nation of fierce countenance who will have no respect for the old, nor show favor to the young. And remember that word, eagle swoops down, is an expression, an idiom expression, and it can also denote an attribute of the nation, right? It says, where we at? Oh, will not show respect for the old, nor show favor to the young. The refined and delicate woman among you who would not venture to set the sole of her foot on the ground for delicateness and refinement shall be hostile towards the husband she cherishes and towards her son and daughter. If you are not careful to observe all the words of this law which are written in this book, to fear this honored and awesome name, the Most High your Elohim, then the Most High will bring extraordinary plagues on you and your descendants, even severe and lasting plagues, and miserable and chronic sickness. Moreover, the Most High will scatter you amongst the people, for one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, and there you shall serve other gods or Elohims, wood and stone, which you and your fathers have not known. Among those nations you shall find no rest. There will be no resting place for the sole of your foot, but there the Most High will give you a trembling heart, failing of eyes, and despair of soul. So your life will hang in doubt before you, and you will be in dread night and day, night and day, and shall have no assurance of your life. In the morning you shall say, would it that it were evening? And at the evening you should say, would it be that it were morning, because of the dread of your heart which you dread, and for the sight of your eyes which you will see. The Most High will bring you back to Egypt in ships by the way which I spoke to you. You will never see it again, and there you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female servants, and they will not buy or redeem you. And I have an asterisk there by the word Egypt, but you can't see it, so I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Raise this up a little bit so you can see that. Give me 1 second. Y'all can see the top a little bit, right? Can you see the top? Yeah. It's a little cut off. All right. It's cool. All right. So I have here, next to the asterisk, land of slavery, house of bondage, Exodus 13:3, Exodus 13:14, Exodus 20:2, Deuteronomy 5:6, Deuteronomy 6:12, Deuteronomy 7:8, Deuteronomy 8:14, Deuteronomy 13:10 shows you that an attribute of Mizraim or Egypt is the land of slavery or the house of bondage. And remember, where it says, I will bring you back to Egypt. Now, we have what's called the documentary hypothesis. And when you do textual criticism, you understand what the documentary hypothesis is. But what they propose is that Deuteronomy was written when the Israelites came back to restore the temple during Persian captivity. If this is what happened, that means that if they were writing about something here to be a prospect of something to come, it was not contemporary, to the events that was happening in their day. Which means that if we're talking about a situation where Israelites would be brought back into captivity by way of ships in Egypt, which is ambiguous there when you look at the Hebrew, which I don't have time to go into now, it can refer to the literal place of Egypt, and it can also refer to a land of captivity, because some Israelites were taken to Egypt or Alexandria by way of the Macedonians and the Seleucids when they went and invaded the Levant region. But at the same time, some of these things that we see here did not fit the things that was occurring to our people when they did go into that captivity, which means that this is an overarching prophecy that is reaching the Israelites no matter where they travel, no matter where they escape to. All right. Y'all follow me? All right. Most of you here might already know this, but for the watching audience, some of y'all may not know. Now, examples of curses during slavery in America. Okay. What does that say? Somebody read that.
Lynching, whipping, beating, castration, dread of life.
Dread of life. If you don't know when you might get lynched, when you might get whipped, when you might get beat, when you might get castrated, would you not be in dread for your life? So our ancestors who were brought over here into captivity and made to be slaves, these are the things that they had to worry about each and every day, because it was random and it can happen to anybody. Dread of life. Okay, what does that one say? Our women were raped at will, and there was nothing that we could do about it. We had to stand there and just allow it to happen. How many of y'all saw the Roots miniseries here? Raise your hand. You seen it? Remember that scene where the slave master grabbed the mother and did what he did to her, and he was holding I think it was the son or the father. I think it was his wife. He saw they was attacking his wife, and they was holding him back, and he couldn't do anything about it. What can you do about it? Because if he gets killed, who's going to protect his family? So it's something that they had to face, but he betrothed her at that time to be his wife, but another man took her. All right, let's move on. Children taken from parents and placed into slavery, because we'll see that there were situations where the slaves would have children, and their children would be separated from the parents, and they would be put onto auction blocks and sold. Okay. Forced to work on plantations, i.e. build houses and vineyards, or farms, or various things, and you don't own it. You're working for somebody else. Interesting that all of these things happen, and there's a text that talks about it in Prospect. Okay. Robbed of culture, language, customs, and history, destitution or poverty, dependency on the slave master. Because if you've been removed from your home and taken to someplace distant, you don't know anything about the land that you're in. So you are dependent upon the slave master. Okay. Insurrection and revolt suppression caused flight. So when the slaves did decide they want to rise up and fight back, the moment the National Guard came in, the moment a whole bunch of the slave masters came with their guns and their dogs, we would flee. Go in one way, out seven. Okay. Lack of education. Very, very important. There's a reason why they kept us destitute of knowledge. Because the moment that we realized what was going on and we looked into the text where it speaks to our people at that time, we would have been waking up. And what happened was a lot of the insurrections occurred when the Israelites, I'm going to say Israelites, or the so-called African Americans were reading the text for themselves. And they was identifying with the things that was in the text. Identifying with it. Okay. Here's a book you can go read. It's called American Slavery as It Is, Testimony of 1,000 Witnesses by Well Theodore Dwight. And you can go cap this book from Amazon.com. It's not even that much, but if you read it, what they did was they spoke to the slaves themselves, and the slaves gave their testimonies of all these things that they had to endure. So I'm not just telling you something because it sounds good or because it sounds bad. I'm giving you a reference. You can go back and hit the slaves themselves tell you the story. All right, let's move forward. Example of curses in modern day times: black on black crime. Okay, poverty. Okay, foreigners setting up businesses in our communities becoming prosperous, and we're not. Drugs, gun violence, and media misrepresentation. Single parent homes, welfare promotes this. How many of you know that welfare promotes single parent homes? Okay. Loss of land and home ownership by way of gentrification. How many of you know what gentrification is? All right. Low quality education. Increase in disease afflictions. The so-called African American America has the highest rate of disease affliction than any other ethnic group in America. Is that by chance? Okay. AIDS, cancer, heart disease, etc. We're number one on almost all of these things here. Dependency on governmental services and privileges. Most of our communities are destitute and reliant upon governmental services. So we can't even depend upon ourselves. We need to go to another entity to feed and sustain us. Police brutality. I mean, y'all familiar with that. That's some completely current. And lack of employment. The employment rate in our community is horrible and it needs to change. But we're going to see. Here's 4 references you can go. African American Issues by Kevin D. Roberts. How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America by Manning Marable. Why So Many Black Men Are in Prison by D'Amico Booth. And Health Issues in the Black Community. And when you get these books, it goes more in depth in all of these references that I pointed there. And what you will see, a starking revelation that when you read Deuteronomy 28 and you see these curses, when you look at any ethnic group that's in this country today, these things fit us more so than anybody else. But how come I don't see this being taught in some churches? It's not knocking in churches. They never go into that part. They only talk about the blessings. Life is not a skip through the roses once you convert over to the truth. There's going to be hardships, and you never ask Most High to remove the hardships. You ask him to give you the shelter in the midst of the storm so he can strengthen you for the next journey. Con? All right, let's move forward. Now, in the scriptures, the prophets confirmed the Hebrew Israelites' exile and loss of heritage. Jeremiah 16:13 says, so I will hurl you out of this land into the land which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers. There you will serve other Elohim day and night, for I will grant you no favor. Other Elohim when you're hurled out the land. You shall loosen, Jeremiah 17:4, you shall loosen your hand from your heritage or your inheritance or your customs or your traditions or anything that the Most High has given us, that he gave us, and I will make you serve your enemies in a land that you what? That you know. No, that you know. Did we know Egypt? No. Did we know Egypt? He was in Egypt. We knew Egypt. So even if this refers to Egypt, it's also ambiguous, talking about another place that we did not know. Huh? All right. Jeremiah 24:9, I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, for they are heard to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse in all places whither I shall drive them. Jeremiah 44:14 says, so there will be no refugees or survivors for the remnant of Judah who have entered the land of Egypt to reside there and then to return to the land of Judah, to which they are longing to return and live, for none will return except for a few refugees. So, being scattered, the remnant of Judah was escaping into Egypt. And the Most High says that the amount of y'all that went in, the same amount is not going back to set up shop back into the land. Only a remnant of refugees will. Okay. Ezekiel 6:8 says, but I will spare some, for some of you will escape the sword when you are scattered among the lands and nations. Then in the nations where they have been carried captive, those who escape will remember me, how I have been grieved by their adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me, and by their eyes, which have lusted after their idols. They will loathe themselves for the evil they have done and for their detestable practices, and they will know that I am the Most High, did not threaten in vain to bring this calamity upon them. So the Most High is saying that when we are scattered, a time is going to come where we're going to wake up. We're going to remember the things of old. We're going to research. We're going to study. We're going to increase the knowledge and information and know our identity. And in doing so, the thing that's going to happen is we're going to loathe ourselves. The fact that we got put into this condition, be these curses from our disobedience to the statute, laws, and commandments. And then when that happens, we're going to cry out to the Most High. We're going to remove the detectable practices from us. And the Most High says that he will let us know he did not do this in vain, just to bring a calamity upon us. He did it to whoop our butts and to wake us up so we can get right. If you have a child and your child's doing the wrong thing, are you going to spare the rod because you don't want to hurt your child? Or sometimes your child needs to be whipped so they can understand that there are consequences for every action that you do. And they're not always positive. All right, let's move forward. What did the ancient Hebrew Israelites look like in phenotypical artifacts? Because this is very important. Because you'll be told that we don't know what they look like. You don't know what the Israelites look like. How could you say they look like you? We don't know what they look like. Okay. But we actually do have some artifacts that show us what they look like. Before we do, I want to show you guys where Lachish is at. How many of y'all know where Lachish is? And you know about the city in the scriptures? Okay. Lachish right here is south of both Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and it's right next to Gaza, right? And Hebron. Hebron's like right next to it, right? So when we see this, I want to show you where we talking about as far as location, geographical wise, for these images I'm about to portray for you. And it's right here. And we go to look at these images here. I know some of y'all may have seen these images before, but if you look at them, these are people with broad noses, thick lips, knotty hair, knotty beards. And this is the Lachish relief, dated to 701 BCE. And this is when the Assyrians went to go attack Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Lachish, etc. The Assyrians took over the northern tribes in 721, and 20 years later, they was trying to make their way south. But the Israelites fought back, they repelled them, and they moved back north. But before they did, they attacked Lachish, and they came captives, and they tortured them by the stake. They impaled them and lifted them up on stakes and hung them like that. They flayed their skin alive. They chopped their heads off. They did all of these things to the Israelites. But this is what they look like. Some more imagery. They have locks in their hair, knotty beards, broad noses. Okay. Read this for y'all. Archaeological evidence of cranial phenotypes of the ancient Israelites. So now we saw what they look like phenotypically from the artifacts. Now let's see if we can get a little deeper to figure out who they resemble. In the 19th, this is a book called The City Besieged, Siege and Its Manifestations in the Ancient Near East by Israel Ethel, right? In the 1930 excavation of Lachish, remains were found more than 1,500 humans in 4 tombs. These remains were not interred in an orderly initial burial, but were apparently thrown in, having been collected in the aftermath of a mass death that befell the population of Lachish, which prevented orderly burial. 695 skulls and a small quantity of other bones were taken for anthropological examination. Examination of these bones and of the tombs in which they were found yielded limited but important data which should be considered in any discussion of the disaster that led to the death of the people of Lachish. When we go to 5, there's 5 of them here. When we go to number 5, it says the skulls found in Lachish differ from skulls found in the Iron Age sites in Judah and are similar to those of people of Egyptian origin. The Israelites migrated from Egypt into Canaan. So, of course, they would look similar to the people that they're migrating from. But if people question you on what the Egyptians look like, that the people of Lachish would have been compared to, here's an image right here. Y'all see this mummy? See it? See the hair texture on this mummy? See the complexion on this mummy? Do they look like one of y'all? So now we see the Lachish relief, where we have the phenotypes on the walls. Now we have science by means of craniometrics, which is comparing those skulls of Lachish that we saw in the previous relief to Egyptian skulls. So our people would have been dark skinned like this, knotty hair like this, and if this person was an Israelite, one of our attributes would be growing a beard. So we would look similar to these people. So now we have the science evidence to validate that they look just like us. Okay. How many of you know about the Jews of Balad al-Sudan? Raise your hand. Okay, I'll read it. The Jews of Balad al-Sudan describes West African Jewish communities, that's how they like to label the Israelites from the past, who were connected to known Jewish communities from the Middle East, North Africa, or Spain and Portugal. Various historical records attest to their presence at one time in Ghana, Mali, and the Songhai empires, then called the Balad al-Sudan from the Arabic meaning land of the blacks. Jews from Spain, Portugal, Morocco in later years also formed communities off the coast of Senegal and on the islands of Cape Verde. These communities continue to exist for hundreds of years, but have since disappeared due to changing social conditions, migration, and the transatlantic slave trade. Africa, in the broader sense, is clearly indicated where mention is made of the 10 tribes having been driven into exile by the Assyrians and having journeyed into Africa. Connected with this is the idea that the river Sabbatation is in Africa. Look up Sabbatation in the river and you'll see there's a lot of myths in regards to where that location is. But the Israelites that were there called the river that they saw Sabbatation. Very interesting. The Arabs, who also knew the legend of Ben Musa, the sons of Moshe, agreed with the Jews in placing their land in Africa. Records of the Jewish history of Mali can still be found in the Kati Andalusi library today. Some historians who document the Hebrew Israelite presence in West Africa while visiting, we have Eldad Hadani from the 9th century CE. How many of you heard about him? Okay. We have Muhammad al-Idrisi from the 12th century CE. How many of you heard about him? Okay. Ibn Khaldun from the 12th century CE. How many of you heard about him? Okay. Mahmud Kati from the 7th century CE. You have Abdurrahman Ben Abdallah, S. Sadi from the 18th century CE, Leo Africanus from the 18th century CE, Mungo Park from the 18th century CE, Robert Sutherland Rattray from the 19th century CE, and George E. Lichblau from the 20th century CE. So if you research and look up all these individuals, you'll have the historical recordation and documentation of the Israelites that were living in West Sudan. So now we have the historical record on top of the phenotypical record. So we start to see certain things here that the evidence is there. Why are we not being taught and shown these things? Okay. How many of you know about Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan? Raise your hand. Okay. In his earliest years, he was identifying himself as a black Jew, and in later years, he deviated away from that a little bit to go into Kemet or deal with the ancient land of Kemet. But one thing he said very interesting is this is him on the Hebrew Israelite lineage of Americans. He says the African Jews, as all other romanticized Africans of this era, were caught in a rebellion in Cyrene during 115 CE against Roman imperialism and colonialism. This rebellion also marked the beginning of a mass Jewish migration southward into Sudan or West Africa. Along the way of the city Air and into the countries of Fouta, Jalon, and Senegambia, which lie below the curve of the Niger River's most northern reaches, where the city of Timbuktu, Mali presently stands. And that's in African Origins of the Major Western Religions, 1970, page 76. So the rest of this citation I have says, Dr. Ben goes on to relate that Israelite immigrants from northern and eastern Africa merged with indigenous groups in western Africa to become the Fulani of the Fouta Jalon, the Barnu, the Kamen, and Lake Chad. They also formed the parent stock of groups such as the Ashanti, the Hausa, and the Bena Ephraim, and the Babumba, All of these groups suffered tremendous population decreases during the years of the transatlantic slave trade was in operation. Others were completely eliminated. Thus, almost every so-called African American has Israelite ancestry in their family tree, whether he or she knows it or not. Even in the very crucible of slavery, the descendants of West African Hebrew captives in America struggled to keep their heritage from being obliterated by forced assimilation and acculturation. Their distinctive traditions became submerged in Christianity, but always remain a part of the oral tradition via the so-called Negro spirituals who praise the memory of their ancestors. Heavy stuff right there. But I keep moving. This is a reference from the book that I just referenced here from Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan called African Origins and the Major Western Religions. And if you look on this book, pages 76 and 77, it gives you more detail and what we just summarized here. So that way you guys can go back and do your research. Now, the Hebrew Israelite immigration routes from Israel to West Africa to America. There were two routes. You had the Trans-Saharan route and the Sub-Saharan route. The Trans-Saharan route would be the route that you see up there at the top, leaving out of Israel, making their way towards lower Egypt, and making their way across Morocco to all the other countries, and making their way all the way down to West Sudan or West Africa. Now you had the Sub-Saharan route, which where they would take the route down the Nile River there and make their way underneath the Sahara and make their way into West Africa. These are the two major routes of all the subsequent Israelite migrations after the various captivities going right into West Africa. Can y'all see that? And then from there, we lived amongst the indigenous peoples, and we were eventually brought into captivity and in slavery during the transatlantic slave trade. And this is what is proposed from the Hebrew Israelite ideology. And you'll see more evidence that I'm about to showcase that helps to validate this information. So we're showing you here, even here, it talks about Cyrene, Elephantine, Ethiopia, Uganda, Libya, all the places that our people were at, and the various dates that shows you various things that we did while we were in those areas and in those communities and amongst those indigenous lands. All right. So you also even have a route down here from Egypt to Yemen to Ethiopia to South Africa. And this is where you get a lot of the Bantu Israelites or the Lemba tribe. How many of you heard about the Lemba tribe? I've only heard about the Beta Israel. They're also here in Ethiopia. Those are the Ethiopian Jews, and these are the Bantu Jews from the Lemba tribe, okay? So what I'm doing is, again, I'm giving y'all overall of the ideology in regards to Hebrew Israelites, what we teach, why we teach it, and some of the evidences, not all. This is a very abridged version to validate where we stand today. Con? All right. Transatlantic slave trade, this needs no introduction. Y'all can just look at the images to see what we had to go through being packed up on slave ships. Do y'all see that? This is the history they want us to forget. There's a book out now that they had, I believe it's in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, where a mother posted images of the book on Instagram. And what she said was that she was being, the child was being taught that the quote-unquote slaves that were brought over here came here voluntarily as migrant workers looking for opportunities. This is what they're teaching your kids now. This is going to be a myth sometime in another 100 years or so. Yes?
That goes back to what I wanted to address about the particular Bible that you were reading from.
Mm-hmm.
It said that we offered ourselves. No, that did not change that.
They changed that. Now it could be ambiguous because the offering can also relate to today. Why? Because when we go to get a job, you can have a degree, you're offering yourself to be hired, and they're turning you down. And that relates to the unemployment rate. So it's ambiguous because there's various ways to translate it. And I could probably discuss with y'all after this is over, and we can go into the actual Hebrew of it. And we can see that it's a very ambiguous in how you can translate. That's why we see various things. But even if they translate it that way, we did offer ourselves up. Even when you look at the Reconstruction period, we tried to offer ourselves for jobs after slavery. And what do you think happened? No, we're not going to hire y'all. So what they did was they had the convict leasing program, they had the Vagrancy Act, the pig laws, the black codes. Look these things up. Because this is designed to disenfranchise us so we wouldn't be economically prosperous in America. So we made attempts to do it. Then we realized, well, we could do it on our own. And we attempted to do it on our own. And even those things crumbled over time. But there's always a remedy to resolve that. But you have to include the Most High. Okay, let's move forward. Yep, the Hebrew Israelite theophory recorded in the transatlantic slave ship records. How many of you know what theophory means? Raise your hand. Okay, I have it here at the bottom, but I like to use good terms because these terms are very, very important when you go to research it. So I have here from slavevoyages.org. And when you go to slavevoyages.org, you can type in the search, look at the records, the slave ship records, type in the word Yah. When you type in the word Yah, it'll give you over 800 plus entries, right? And the reason why we're bringing this up because we want to show that one of the things that were unique to the quote-unquote Hebrew Israelites is that they had theophoric names. A theophoric name, as we read at the bottom, refers to the practice of embedding the name of a deity in a proper name, such as Eliyahu, or Elijah, Yahusha, Michael, etc. At the end, you have Yah. In the beginning, you have Yah, and you may also have El, depending upon the name. So when you see these, Yah in the beginning, Yah in the middle, Yah at the end, this is called a theophory or a theophoric name, and the purpose of it was to invoke the protection of the deity. So you encase it in the name. It can either be the epithet of the deity or something the deity has done for the person or in the life of the person. So these are the things that the Israelites had kept in their customs. When we look at the slave ship records, we see various names that have Yah in them. Now, depending upon the spelling, some of these are Islamic names because some Islamic individuals got taken. Also, they could have been Israelites who donned Islam to hide their heritage. And we also have some Moors that were also involved as well, which is a totally different subject matter altogether. But when you read some of them are just specifically Hebrew-ish names. And I say ish because they're like the original Hebrew names from the Bible. But these are names that we also attributed and gave to our children as we ventured away farther and farther from our homeland. But you'll have today first-generation parents from another country, let's say Ghana, that will move over here to America, and the purpose of them coming to America is to take their children and integrate them into American society. But they will give their child a African name. But the child will be learning the language, but they would keep the African name as part of the custom. So even though second generation, third generation, fourth generation, you're getting weaned away from your initial great-great-great-great-grandparents that first arrived here, the thing that still stays surety is the name that you're given because it has relevance within the culture. And this is why we find this in these slave records. Okay. I would, but the font is a little crazy, but I will read it to you. I'll revisit it when we get towards the end. So the question and answer, I'll go there and I'll read it for you so you can see. All right. And I'll translate a few of them for you. All right. Now, were blacks acknowledged as Israelites here in America? Okay. Here's a marker here. The location, the marker is on the median at junction of Lane Street, Country Road 695, and West 3rd Street, US 416 and 15, and Farmville, VA 23901. So if you actually want to go and look at this marker for yourself, it's right there. Right. You go to markethistory.com and you'll see a lot of these various historical markers that they've made in various areas around the U.S. This one is important because it says the free blacks of Israel Hill. Now remember, the word Israel here is not in quotation, but it says Israel Hill. Just to the west lies Israel Hill, settled in 1810 to 1811 by approximately 90 formerly enslaved persons who received freedom, and 350 acres from Judith Randolph under the will of her husband, Richard Randolph, cousin of Thomas Jefferson. These Israelites and other free African Americans worked as farmers, craftspeople, and river boatmen. Some labored alongside whites for equal wages and defended their rights in court. The family of early settler Hercules White bought and sold real estate in Farmville and joined with white citizens to found the town's first Baptist church in 1836. Israel Hill remained a vigorous black community into the 20th century, and then eventually they disappeared. All this land was taken, and now they don't own anything. So even when we did get to a certain point, without that knowledge of why we got there, we're going to lose that heritage. Con? Go back and research this marker for yourself, and you'll see that the label there was Israelites for these formerly enslaved persons who were considered black or African American. Let's move forward. Now, can't leave y'all without getting some book references. So you can get the Igbos in Israel, an intercultural study of the largest Jewish diaspora by Remy Elona. You can get Traditions and Customs of the Gandangis of Ghana, Descendants of Authentic Biblical Hebrew Israelites by Joseph Neil Abekar Mensa, PhD. The Igbo Israel, which is a comparison of Igbo and ancient Israel's culture by Adi Magalu. And we have Revelation, the movement of the Akan people from Canaan to Ghana by Akan Ba. These are 4 books as you go back. You can purchase it for yourself and you can read more in depth than some of the information that I touched on earlier, because I can't just leave y'all with just some quotes. I got to give y'all some reference material. Okay. You also have Hebrew Israelites of West Africa by Joseph J. Williams, which someone in here is familiar with. From Babylon Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor, which I think all of us in here has read that or knows about it. We have Into Egypt Again with Ships by Elisha Israel, a message to the forgotten Israel for African Americans. How many of y'all read this? The Truth About the Black Biblical Hebrew Israelites, the World's Best Kept Secret. What Happened to the True Black Jews in the Year 70 CE by Ella J. Hughley. How many of y'all read this book? Okay. If not, go back and purchase all of these books. We have Hebrew Exiles from Israel, Amazing Facts and Revelation by Professor O. Alezi. You can purchase that book. Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America by Ronald Dowson Jr. How many of y'all actually read that or saw that? So is that? Detroit, there you go. You have a DVD, Hebrew or So-Called Negro by Yahya Bandele. How many of y'all actually watched this DVD or documentary? If not, go back and watch it. And we have We the Black Jews, volumes 1 and 2 by Yosef A. Ben Yochanan, Witness to the White Jewish Race Myth. You can go back and get all of these books to see everything that I told you in a very streamlined version. Everything is more in-depth than needs, all right? You have The Negro Question by Lee Cummings, The Negro Question 2, The African Slave Ships That Came from Judah, again by Lee B. Cummings. How many of y'all read these books before? Okay, if not, you want to purchase it. The Black Jews of Africa, History, Religion, and Identity by Edith Bruder. And we have Tudor Parfit's work, Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. How many of y'all read either one of these 2 books? All right, if not, you need these books in your collection because these are references that give more detail to the things I just summarized earlier. So when people ask for references, I'm giving you all the references. And this is only maybe about, I think I put what, 12 up here because there's over 40 books that go into it. And half of them are PhDs, giving PhD dissertations in a book format of all the information I just gave to y'all. Con? All right, so nobody tell you there's no evidence there. Now I want to introduce y'all to the ISSAJ. How many of you heard of that before? Raise your hand. Yes. All right, give you something new. The International Society for the Study of African Jewry is a community of scholars and students engaged in the study of African Jewry and its diverse cultures, historical environments, religious beliefs, and practices. The objectives of ISSAJ are to facilitate scholarly collaboration, research, and discussion to disseminate research findings through regular conferences and newsletters. The ISSAJ members are international and interdisciplinary community of scholars and students in African studies, Jewish studies, ethnology, social anthropology, modern history, history of religions, and history of ideas. However, the International Committee cordially invites all academics or students interested in the scholarly investigation of the diversity of African Judaism wherever their discipline to participate. I am in the process of becoming a member to this society. And when I get in, I'm going to do so many trips in Africa and get so much data, I'm going to bring it all back to you. But, oh yeah, that's in the works. shout it out too early. I didn't want nobody to know about it yet, but it's coming. But the point, the reason why I'm showing this is because it validates the quote-unquote Israelites that are in Africa, and they tell you their oral traditions. They tell you their migration routes. They tell you where they came from. They tell you what year they came from. And all of these, the purpose of all of this is to validate that information by looking at the customs of the people, the traditions of the people, the language or ontology of the people. By looking into names, you can see the heritage or the lineage of people who may have lost it over time via enculturation or acculturation. This society gives you all the in-depth information you need to validate that West Africans in Africa, some West Africans in Africa can trace their lineage back to Israel, and we have all the scholarly reference material to validate it. And what they will tell you is that a lot of those oral traditions that they tell you about moving into Africa, they'll tell you that their communities were depleted via the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. That should be deep, because it's all scholarly stuff, and you can go back and research it. The ISSJ, International Society for the Study of African Jewry, we have various places where various communities that they deal with. In Ghana, they deal with the House of Israel. Nigeria, they deal with the Igbo. We have in Cape Verde Islands, Israel Friendship Society. Mali, we in Mali. We in Ethiopia from the Ben Israel. We in Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, South Africa with the Limba. These are various areas that this society actually deals with. In these regions, deal with anthropology, archaeology, language, history, religions, etc. And when I become a member, I will visit all these places and bring all the data back to you guys. First thing. So they're going to be a follow-up PowerPoint to this. Okay? All right. References regarding the works of ISSAJ, you can get this book called African Zion, Studies in Black Judaism, edited by Edith Bruder and Tudor Parfit. This is from the proceedings of the 2010 ISSJ International Conference of SOAS in the University of London. If you want to look at some of the abstracts, the abstract gives you a summary of the things that they spoke there. If you can't get the book, you can go to this website here and look up the abstracts for the conferences of 2010, 2012, 2015 to get a summary of the discussion regarding the Hebrew Israelite communities in Africa. Publications, if you want to see some of the books that go back and validate all this information about all of these scholars, these are not just regular laymen rolling up in it, these are scholars or PhDs. You can check out the publications in relation to the adherence of this community of scholars by going to this link here. And I will make this available for you guys if you want to go back and research, or you can just type in ISSAJ online and you can go and research for yourself. You know, people act like there's no scholarly work that validates our system, but we have the information there. What time is it? 7:45. Did the bishop arrive? Okay, I'm gonna take his time. All right, so let's keep going. All right. Somebody put a hashtag up, say hashtag finding Worsham. I don't know. I'm gonna put that up here. Maybe you don't want to put that up. Maybe, I don't know why he didn't show up today, but it's okay, because when this goes out there, our Christian brothers and sisters will get privy to all this information. It can't be hidden no more. It's gonna go out there to the masses. Okay. Now, the biblical accuracy of Hebrew Israelite ideology, let's look into it. Deuteronomy 61 says what? Somebody read that for me. Loud. Somebody read that. Who can see it?
This is the commandment, the statutes and judgment which the Lord your God has commanded me to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going over to possess it, so that you and your sons and your grandsons might fear the Lord your God, to keep his statutes, his commandments, which I command you all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. O Israel, you should listen and be careful to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, just as the Lord thy God, your God of your fathers, has promised you.
There you go. So it says the commandment, the statutes, and the judgments which the Most High is commanding you to teach, that you may do them in the land where you're going to possess it. And it says, O Israel, you should listen and be careful to do it, that it may be well with you, that you may multiply greatly, just as the Most High, your Elohim of your fathers, has promised you. Alahaya. Now, why is this important? Because this was a commandment given to the ancestors of the Israelites going into the land, being sovereign. So now when you're sovereign, you can fully satisfy commanding, keeping all the commandments and statutes and judgments. But when you go into captivity, there are certain limitations because you have overlords over you. So certain capital punishments you can't do in regards to the judgments, certain things we just can't do because we're in captivity, and certain things have to be handed over to a bigger court than we are. But Regardless, the ethnic marker to identify who the Israelites are today are the ones that are keeping the statutes, laws, and commandments. Matthew 5 and 17, I don't know you're familiar with this because last time I checked, person who's called Jesus Christ or Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua ben Yosef, Sheshaiah, whatever you want to name him, he actually says something about the law and the prophets, and I'm going to show you something else on top of that. And last time I checked, he was an Israelite. Was he an Israelite? You sure? Oh, man, he was Israelite. He says, do not think that I came to abolish the law of the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or stroke shall pass from the law until all is accomplished. Whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. How can you exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees unless you know the standard in which they are given to follow? He's also told you that whoever annuls or does away with the least of these commandments and teaches people do the same. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, that not the smallest jot or tittle of the law shall pass until all, no, some, all, a little thing, all is accomplished. He didn't come to the abolish. Well, maybe people may look at that and say, oh, there's different ways you interpret that. I'm going to show you something fun. In Matthew 15:24, he says, but he answered and said to the Syrophoenician woman, I was sent only to who? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. And people say that's spiritual Israel. That's what they say, spiritual Israel. But he was talking to a physical person when he said this, right? Was he talking to a spirit when he said this? We talking to a spirit when he said this? It was a physical person. He was talking to the people. He was talking to her, the other people that's there. I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. Interesting. But let me show you something. Because you have some people that say, oh, no, that doesn't mean that. That was good until he died. You hear people say that, right? This was good until he died. But when he died, he filled everything at the cross. That's what we said. And it's not a knock to our Christian friends. We're just talking about the facts. Because I was taught this. But let's see something outside of the scriptures from one of the apostles to see how he interprets this after the death of the Mashiach. The excerpt from the Epistle of Peter to James from the Clementine Homilies. How many of you have read the Clementine Homilies before? Raise your hand. All right. If you didn't, I suggest you go back and read this. But this is a purported letter from Peter to James that was in the hands of Clement of Rome. He was responsible for helping to distribute the letters between these two. And he also sent letters to Ecclesia, or the called out ones, who we would colloquially call the church. But a lot of times the connotation for church in your mind is a building, but the word in the Greek there is ecclesia. Ek means out from, ecclesia means those who are elected, those who are being elected from out of the world for a purpose that's set apart for the Most High. But when we read this, it says, for some from among the Gentiles have rejected my legal preaching. Legal deals with the law. Does it not? Okay. Attaching themselves to certain lawless and trifling preachers of the man who is my enemy. And some people say that this was Paul that he was talking about. But it's not specific. So you can say it's Paul, you can say it's Simon Magus, you can say it's whoever. But the key thing is whoever this enemy was attaching themselves to people who are lawless, who was trifling preaching, and have rejected his legal preachings, or the law, right? And it says, in these things, some have attempted while I am still alive. No, while the Messiah is still alive. No, while I'm still alive, to transfer my words by certain various interpretations in order to the dissolution of the law, or the doing away of the law. He's saying when I gave this gospel, it was according to the legal preachings, which had to do with the law, but there's other people telling you that the things that I'm saying to you have nothing to do with the law. Are you following me? This is after the Mashiach passed. Okay. He goes on and says, in order to the dissolution of the law, as though I myself was of such a mind. Peter never taught the dissolution of the law. Okay. He says, but did not fully proclaim it, which God forbid. For such a thing were to act in what? Opposition. So he's saying when people teach you that you got to do it with the law, this is acting in opposition to the law of Elohim, which was spoken by Moshe and Musa and was borne witness to by our who? Lord. In respect of his internal, of his what? Internal. continuance, for thus he spoke, the heavens and the earth shall pass away, but one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law. And this he has said, that all things might come to pass. So now Peter is telling you that the proper interpretation of this is that the Mashiach was telling you to keep the law. And he's keeping the law. And he died already, and Peter's still saying this. Ah, interesting. Wonder why I never got taught this before. I had to go dig deep for this. So now we have the proper interpretation of Matthew 5 and 17 by Peter himself. Yes. Sure.
Luke 24 and 44. Christ only came to fulfill things concerning him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't fulfill all the law, because Isaiah 14 has come.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 13, 9, and 10 has come.
Mm-hmm. Con. And again, we're saying that we have extra biblical testimony that the interpretation of Matthew 5 and 17 was to fulfill the law, keep the law, teach those to keep the law, and you'll be great in the kingdom. Now, one jot or tittle will be done away until all is fulfilled. So he's saying this is the eternal continuity, or it's going to continue to last until everything is fulfilled. That means the law was never done away with by indigenous Israelites. Never done away with. Okay. Are y'all following me so far?
Yeah.
Con? All right. Historical Messianics kept Torah because they were Hebrew Israelites and not Gentiles. So the historical Messianics, who some will call today the real first Christians, kept Torah because they were Hebrew Israelites and not Gentiles. They didn't just stop doing the law. They kept the law. They didn't do away with the law. When you study the Ebionites and Nazarenes, you'll see more in depth in who the real Messianics was, who kept the law and accepted the Mashiach. Okay. Now, the interesting thing, before I even pull that down, the interesting thing about this is that the recordation that we have about these people was from their enemies. It's interesting that the enemies are always writing about the people who they feel is their enemies and never giving you the true interpretation from those people's perspective. But for some reason, once these people and their ideology takes precedence and power and political intervention, all of a sudden, all the indigenous works of the people who they talk about is gone, missing. But it was alive in their day. They saw it in their day, but today we just don't have it conveniently. It's gone. Okay. This is from the church fathers themselves. Irenaeus in his book Adversus Heresies, book 1, chapter 26 says, those who are called Ebionites agree with the world was made by Elohim, but their opinions with respect to the Lord or to the Messiah are similar to those of Cerinthus and Carpocrates. Now remember, a lot of these quotes that you get from the church fathers is either from hearsay, some things that they may have witnessed firsthand, but a lot of times you never have one cohesive story from these people because there are various time periods, various areas, and their references come from different sources. But what they're trying to do is explain who these people were, all right? Now, the interesting thing is that they use only the gospel according to Matthew because the book of Matthew, which they had, was written in Aramaic. Greek translation, they did most with the Aramaic, and I'm going to show you why in a second. And it says they practice circumcision, preserving the observance of those customs which are enjoined by the law and are so Judaic in their style of life that they even adore Jerusalem as if it were the house of Elohim. Hippolytus' account from the Refutation Omni Heresies, I think that's 734. They live comfortably to the laws, to the customs of the Jews, alleging that they are justified according to the law and that the Messiah was justified by fulfilling the law. And therefore it was that the Savior was Christ of Elohim, since not one of the rest of mankind had observed the law completely. So what they're saying is that the Mashiach was the only person able to fulfill the law completely. And this is one of the identifying markers to them why he was the Messiah and why he was the example. Okay? Pretty sure you didn't learn this before anyway, right? Okay. You see this account history of the church, and he called it the heresy of the Ebionites, right? It says the ancients would probably call these men Ebionites. In their opinion, the observance of the ceremonial law was altogether necessary. They used only the so-called gospel according to the Hebrews and made small account of the rest, the Sabbath and the rest of the discipline of the Jews they observed. We move forward, it says it is especially difficult to distinguish between the Nazarenes and Ebionites because they were considered one and the same and sometimes different depending upon what time period, what area you was in. but Jerome obtained the gospel according to the Hebrews, which was in Aramaic, directly from the Nazarenes, yet he ascribed it not only to them, but also to the Ebionites, which means there was various traditions of this manuscript that was in Aramaic, or the language or the tongue of the Israelites, that was floating around at that time, and Jerome had access to it. He read from it, and one thing he said was interesting is that when he looked at the Greek version, he said, listen, we don't know who translated this Greek version, but we know where this version came from. Greek translation, we don't know who translated it. So that's not saying that the Greek version we have today is flawed. It's just saying that when you look at history, there are some things that we may find in there that he did not see when he was doing the textual criticism in the book according to the Hebrews, or the Hebrew version of Matthew. This is called textual criticism. That's a realm that I delve in. And if y'all want to discuss that later on, we can get into that. But that is very important when you want to understand who the original Israelites was that followed the Messiah. The Nazarenes then recognized Jesus, quote unquote, though it appears from occasional references to them that they considered the Mosaic law binding only for those born within Judaism, and it says some Ebionites considered the law binding for all men. The Nazarenes, therefore, they said they rejected Paul because they misunderstood him, and the apostle to the Gentiles, some accordingly declared even that the Nazarenes were Jews. So these people called the Nazarenes, a lot of times the information that came from the church fathers were third party, but they heard that these people were the original Israelites that followed the apostles, and they were the descendants, depending upon what time period they came from, of their forefathers who was alive when the Messiah was alive, who was alive when the apostle was alive, and they're the ones that continue that tradition by keeping the law and still holding to the Messiah. This was like almost the third party, or the third wheel, because you had those who were Christians, so the brothers Christians, those who were Jews, but then you had these people, and all of a sudden they got wiped out, but the other two parties still exist today. Very interesting. Very interesting that they had a problem with those who kept the law and accepted the Messiah. There was a threat that they get rid of them. I got a lecture on Facebook, not Facebook, on YouTube, called The Patriarchal Priesthood and the Bible Unveiled. And when you go into that, click on the second video, and I go more in depth on these people, how they were annihilated, how they works were destroyed, and the book references you can go back and research so you can read for yourselves exactly what happened to them in history. But the original Messianics, or who we call Christians, kept the law. Okay. Acts 24:5, somebody read that for me. Anybody can see it? I'll read it. 24:5 says, for we have found this man a real pest, and he was talking about Shaul or Paul, and a fellow who stirs up dissension among all Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. So this way you can see that the Nazarenes were contemporary during the time of Paul, and these people are who we see, their descendants are who the church fathers were speaking of. And these original people kept the law and accepted the Messiah. For some reason, it's like gangbanging. Yo, you can't be in the middle. You gotta be on this side of the extreme or this extreme. But they understand the fullness of keeping the law and accepting the Messiah. And both other parties or extremists outside of that had an issue with that, and that's why those people disappeared. Yes. No, he's not the Nazarene is mostly about people who come from Nazareth, right? So him being a Benjamite, we're talking about what tribe he comes from, but Nazarene was mostly like the area, well, he wasn't a Nazarite. So this is not talking about a Nazarite vow. This has to do with the locale called Nazareth. So for example, if you're from LA, what do they call people from LA? Depending upon where you are in LA. Give me a term that they call people here from LA. Besides that, they don't be calling us that. What do they call y'all from here? Bompton? Right? So depending upon what hood you're from, you would be identified with that neighborhood. You feel what I'm saying? All right, y'all. Come on. We almost done. All right. So what I'm showing is that the Nazarenes who existed at that time, they kept the law, they followed the Messiah, and they falsely attributed Paul to these people. Well, Paul said, I'm from the way. These terms, the way and Nazarenes, you need to do the research in history to see where these terms come from, and they predate Christianity. Look it up. It's very, very interesting. But what I'm trying to show you guys is that the original Israelites kept the law, and not only did they keep the law, they taught other people to keep the law, and they also accepted the Messiah. But when their mission was to somebody outside of that clique, you had to take a different approach into engaging that audience. Whenever you read the text in hermeneutics, you have to identify who the speaker is, who the audience is, look at the linguistical context, the contextual analysis, the historical analysis, the cultural analysis, and in looking at these things, you can properly identify what's being said to who and know how to extract the principle and apply it today. Con? All right, let's move forward. Are some who profess to be Jews really the descendants of the biblical Icarites? Let me say that again. I think it was a little tongue-tied. Are some who profess to be Jews really the descendants of the biblical Israelites? Here's several references here that you can go back and research. I know some of you read some of these books. Some of you read this one here, author Coaster's work, The 13th Tribe. What about Shlomo Sands, The Invention of the Jewish People? Have you read that? Go back and read it. The Jews of Khazaria, 2nd edition by Kevin Allen Brooke. Have you all read that? Go back and read that. You have here The Origin of Ashkenazi Jewry, The Controversy Unraveled, and this is an awesome work by Jitz Van Straten, and I encourage all of y'all here to get this work. And over here, I have the missing link of the Jewish European ancestry concerning the Rhineland and the Khazarian hypothesis by Ezra, Israel, and E. Hick, excuse me. And this is an article that you can get for free online to look at the scientific analysis between these people who purport to be Jews and really are not. And according to the scriptures in Revelation 2:9b, it says, I know about the slander. It's a slander for those who say they are Jews and are not. It's slander to the Most High. That's how he identifies it. Time? All right, let's move forward. Why do we struggle from learning this truth? Everything I just showed y'all. If y'all was coming in for the first time being a Christian, looking at the Hebrew Israelite ideology, why do you think we struggle from learning this truth? Because we suffer from an identity crisis. Identity cannot be found in religion. It must be discovered through culture. Religion masks historical origins and blurs the line of ethnic differentiation. This is very, very important. And the reason why the identity crisis is we're always looking for somebody outside of self to identify with, because we don't know who we are. And we see here an image of a woman taking off a mask. And we see an image of a guy peeling off a mask. And an image here of a question mark because half of us walking around don't know who we are. You're not black. Black is a descriptive term. Not African American. That does not denote a nation that you came from or any historical continuity or any ancestors. You're not Afro-American. Look up the word Afros. Any of you know what the word Afros means? Or Aphrodite. How many of you heard of the goddess Aphrodite? Afros. You look up that word in Greek, it means a foam. Because when you look at her origins, she came about through a foam insemination in the ocean. That's why when they call Afros, it's because the hair is knotty and it looks like foam on top of that. Go back and research that. It's very interesting. So, in order for us to get back to who we are, we must peel off the masks that were given to us, which is the counterfeit identity to disguise who we really are indigenously. And from our paradigm, we say that we are the Hebrew Israelites. And I've given you several references to that. Now, what time is it? Somebody give me a time check. What time? Okay, yeah, I'm almost done. Wrap it up because I'm gonna open up to the floor for questions, and then I'm gonna dialogue with some of y'all out there. Huh? You all right with that? All right. So before I do that, I'm gonna take like 5 minutes to get through something real quick that I didn't finish. But going from identity crisis, how do we fix that? How can Hebrew Israelite ideology liberate black people, quote unquote, in America? It allows us to reestablish our what? Culture. In order to implement what? Autonomy. Culture. That is what has been taken from us, and we've been given something artificial. You can't get the real thing from something that's artificial. You can't eat GMO foods and thinking you're getting organic foods. It doesn't work that way. They're giving us the GMO and they're removing from us the organic sustenance. So what happens when we go back to the constitution of the Torah, which our ancestors had indigenously kept, it brings us back to reestablishing our culture, the mandates of the culture, the dictates of the culture. Culture teaches you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. As a matter of fact, let me give you the definition to culture. Culture, broadly, social heritage. Remember I read earlier that we would lose our heritage? Okay, social heritage of a group, organized community or society. It is a pattern of responses discovered, developed, or invented during the group's history of handling problems which arise from interactions among its members and between them and their environment. These responses are considered the correct way to proceed, feel, think, and act, and are passed on to the new members through immersion and teaching. Culture determines what is acceptable or unacceptable, important or unimportant, right or wrong, workable or unworkable. It encompasses all learned and shared, explicit or tacit assumptions, beliefs, knowledge, norms, and values, as well as attitudes, behavior, dress, and language. If you don't have culture, you don't know that you've been infiltrated. You don't know that you've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. You don't know that you're using and identifying with somebody else's culture that was not designed for your preservation and for your survival. So when we go back to what our ancestors practiced and what they encased in what we call the scriptures, they hand on to us today, is to restore the culture that we once lost. People may look at the Hebrew Israelite community and think that we're a religion. No, we're not a religion. We claim bloodline descendancy from the people that you read in the scriptures. And the purpose of us following the statutes, laws, commandments is to establish the culture that was robbed and taken from us and was forgotten by our forefathers when they moved and strayed away from the commandments. So once you're able to lay the groundwork of culture by learning Torah that your ancestors encased to teach you today who you are, you can be autonomous, which is freedom from what? External control or influence, the right of an organization, country, region, or people, I didn't put it there, to be independent and govern itself. We can take matters of our community back into our own hands, but only when we have culture. Culture teaches us how to organize ourselves, how to disconnect and disengage from the umbilical cord of our connection to the government, to other societies, to other ethnic groups, because what it does is that it teaches you how to control and run your own community. You can start instituting home births and home birthing centers, homeschooling centers, your own educational centers, policing your own neighborhoods, dealing with a social economical transaction with your brothers and with your sisters, etc. Everything's encased in the culture of Torah, and when we establish it, we can finally become autonomous while we are waiting for the Most High to redeem us. This is not going to get off the yoke of captivity off of us, but what it will do is make us without spot or without blemish, so when he does return, he can accept us. But if we keep holding on to everything of the oppressor, then Most High is going to say, well, you're going to be destroyed with the judgment along with the oppressor. Our people love to identify with everybody else but themselves because we don't know who we are. So as the core of our ideology, it teaches who you are. Religion does not teach you who you are. What religion does is that you give away who you are and you adopt something else because that something else is supposedly better than who you are. But if that's the case, when our ancestors who were disconnected from the west coast of Africa were brought over here, what they had currently, what they had formerly, and what they had later on, which one was greater? Was the religion that they adopted when they got taken over here better than what they had before? Because if you're saying it was, now you're saying that our redeemers were the oppressors of colonialists and the imperialists of the transatlantic slave trade. They redeemed you. They saved you because they brought you into the knowledge of all of this. Oh, no, not all of this, but to a religion. Because they say, who you are don't matter. We're all one and the same. Really? While the slave master was beating you on your back, you're all the same? While he's castrating you, all the same? While he's lynching you, he was saying that? This is our brother right here, we're going to lynch. He did something wrong, we're just going to have to end it. Okay. Let me give y'all this real quick. Who were the first Gentiles according to the scriptures? First reference of the word goyim in the scriptures. Where? No, before the Northern Kingdom. The first reference. And hermeneutics is called the law of first reference. When you see a first reference to something. Say it again. Who said that? Japheth. Genesis 10:1 says what? Somebody read that. Anybody read that?
Now this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the flood.
Keep reading.
The sons of Japheth was Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tabal, Meshech, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer was Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Jordan. From these, the coastland peoples of the Gentiles.
Wait, the coastland peoples of the what?
The Gentiles
was what?
Were separated into their
land
according to their families and to their nations.
Now, interestingly enough, when you look at the King James, and this is from the New King James, you'll see that the first reference of the Gentiles that was translated was according to who? The lineage of who? Very interesting. But when you read the rest of that in the King James, anybody got the King James on them?
Yeah.
Who got the King James? All y'all in here, somebody should have the King James. All right, 1611. I want you to read. Well, actually, don't even read because there's a lot to read. But I want you to scan through it and let me know if the word Gentile is used for any other people there. Just scan through it right now. Genesis chapter 10. I'll give y'all about a minute. Just look through it. Let me know if the word Gentile appears more than one time there in Genesis chapter 10. I got a no over here. Anybody else looking? Nope, don't see it. See somebody shaking their head, another person shaking their head. You don't see it, right? Very interesting that the translators decided to choose the word Gentile to define Japheth. Very interesting. Huh? Ashkenaz is there too. That's the Hebrew word for German, when we say German or East Europe. Okay. So let's move forward. All right. Now I'm gonna touch into this real quick because I'm running out of time, and I was trying to save this because I wanted the other speaker to actually give us the origin of the Black church. And once we understand the origin of that person, we will understand if it can be used as a paradigm to liberate our people in America today. But since the speaker is not here, I'm going to touch on these two slides and then I'm going to open up the floor. So it says here, what is the origin of the Black church in America? So I said, who best to talk about what the Black church was other than an actual slave themselves? I read a lot of slave narratives, and I encourage y'all to read slave narratives. And I'm gonna give you a reference for that. But if you go to the slaves themselves, they'll tell you how they adopted what they adopted and how they practiced what they practiced. They'll tell you. You ain't got to get to the third party, get to the slaves themselves. So we have here, began with the conversion of slaves to their slave master's religion. And we have here Millie Evans, circa 1937. And she said from her time being a slave, we had best mistress and master in the world. And they was Christian folks. And they taught us to be Christian like too. Every Sunday morning, old master would have all us niggas to the house while he would sing and pray and read the Bible to us all. All master taught us not to be bad. He taught us to be good. He told us never to steal, nor to tell false tales, and not do anything that was bad. He said, yo will reap what yo sow. And you sow it single and reap a double. I learned that when I was a little child, and I ain't forget. I ain't forget it yet. When I got grown, I went the Baptist way. When I got grown, I went the Baptist way. God called my pa to preach, an old master let him preach in the kitchen and in the backyard under the trees. Old preaching day, old master took his whole family and all the slaves to church with him. I didn't make that up. I mean, she's saying it herself. And you can go back and look up Millie Evans, and you can also look at her history and her record and talking about her adopting Christianity as a slave. Okay. Slave experiences with slave masters who practice Western Christianity. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying all quote unquote Israelites, who we call Israelites, that came over here were indoctrinated with Western Christianity. A huge portion was. Some other ones that came over here of their own free accord. And a few of them in number were Christians already because they came from the Eastern sect of Christianity. But the Western sect of Christianity, which most of us is involved in today, its roots came from the slave master giving it to the slaves. But remember, I'm talking collectively. I'm not speaking for every individual situation. I'm speaking collectively. This is how the indigenous people who got brought over here received this religion. And the ones that were already over here also received that religion as well. Now we have another slave here. I'm not going to read all of this. But what he's saying here is that his sister, when he was coming to a church service, and he saw the master beating the crap out of his sister. And he's like, damn, should I jump in or should I not? But at this point, he was freed, but his sister was still a slave. He's going to visit his sister. So he's like, damn, if I jump in, I might get locked up and become a slave again. But maybe I'm going to turn a blind eye to it. And that's actually what he did. But he talks about how his sister was beat. It says, she writhed in its powerful grasp while shriek after shriek cried away in heart-rending moanings. And yet the inhuman demon continued to beat her, though her pleading cries had ceased, until obliged to desist from the exhaustion of his own strength. I finally passed on with a clenched fist and contracted brow to the church and rang the bell. I think rather furiously to notify the inhabitants of the back that it was time to assemble for the worship of that God who has declared himself to be no respecter of persons. I'm not saying he's saying it. With my own heart beating wildly with indignation and sorrow, the kind reader may imagine my feelings when I saw the smooth-faced hypocrite, the inhuman slave whipper, enter the church, pass quietly on to his accustomed seat, and then meekly bow his hypocritical face on a damask cushion in the reverent acknowledgement of that religion which teaches its adherents to do unto others as they would be done unto you, just as if nothing unusual happened on that Sabbath morning. And they was calling Sunday the Sabbath. That's how they adopted that, right? He says, can anyone wonder that I and other slaves often doubted the sincerity of every white man's religion? He says, can it be a matter of astonishment that slaves often feel that there is no just God for the poor African? Nay, verily, and were it not for the comforting and sustaining influence that these poor, illiterate, and suffering creatures feel as coming from an unearthly source, they would in ignorance all become infidels or non-believers. So what they're saying is that because everything that's happened to them, they believe that it was a result of the God that their slave master was telling them about. They accepted it. But if they knew otherwise, he said they would be unbelievers to that religion. You see why culture is important? Yes? Huh? This is from a slave himself, ex-slave himself. The book is called Austin Stewart, 22 Years a Slave and 40 Years of Freedom in 1857. You can go back, look this guy up, and you can read his entire discourse on it. So I'm not making this stuff up. I'm getting it from the slaves themselves. Con? All right. Further reading, I advise everybody here to get this book, Masters and Slaves in the House of the Lord, Race and Religion in the American South from 1740 to 1870 by John B. Bowles. And it's in a collection of essays, Masters and Slaves in the House of the Lord, Race and Religion in the American South. The focus is on the slave community's adaptation to Christianity. If you read this book, you get it from the slaves themselves. Somebody ain't making this up. This is a reference. But why are we not taught this stuff? Why are we not given this book? Have any of y'all read this book before? I have. If you haven't, this will open your eyes. Everything I just read to you is common. And they'll tell you from themselves how they adopted what they adopted. So we're not saying the system itself, by proxy of us trying to do something noble with it, is wrong. We're saying that the institution of it itself came from us being bewildered, from us being brainwashed, from us being hoodwinked from who we are. Because if we held on to who we were, we would not be subject to slavery. And this is why when we came into more and more revelation of the slaves reading the scriptures, learning to read the scriptures, having these insurrections based on what they read in the scriptures, this is what the slave master was fearful of, even to the point where they made it a law in Virginia and other states that if a white person got taught teaching a slave how to read, you would be punished. Because the moment they read the scriptures and they identify themselves as those people, they understood that the Most High says that you can't sit by idly and watch injustice. Something must be done. Con? Who was the godfather of the Pentecostal movement among blacks in America? And I'm going to end up with this. How many of y'all know who the godfather of Pentecostalism? Because Pentecostalism is something that a lot of our people hold dear to. Yes?
I forget his name, but I know it started at Pika.
Topeka? Okay. Anybody else? No, I don't want you to find it. It has to be off the dome. It has to be off the dome. The Caucasian, right? Okay. Do you know? No? Oral Roberts. Way before Oral Roberts. Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
I know kind of the history. I know it was the first church was started right here in LA.
Wait. Okay, you're getting there. All right, hold on, brother. You got it. Okay, cool. How many of you heard of the Azusa Street Revival? Raise your hand. Speaking in tongues, gifts of the Spirit. All this stuff came from the Azusa Street Revival. But William J. Seymour